Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Register. I see what you're saying. Yeah. No, you like to have something that anchors you to it. Yeah. Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe we should do like this. All right, let me. Well, yeah. Maybe I hear new chair. Sure. Sure. Do you want to do that while I'm? Oh, for 10 minutes. Okay. So you'll just like as you normally do. I don't. I only message in the morning. Yeah. So good evening, everybody. Um, I hope those of you online can hear us. Shake your heads if you can. So the camera went up and down good enough. So um, we appreciate you being here for this important evening of memory. And we're going to, we're first going to daven, to daven Mincha, and then Mariv. And then what we'll do is, and we'll have the opportunity to frame the evening, of course, before calling upon our Eva for some reflections and sharing about her experience and her story. So we're passing out these sheets, which are lists of family members from our community who perished in the Shoah. And so the cantor will ask you if you're comfortable reading these names, and we'll go sequentially through the groupings at the appropriate time in the evening. So again, we're here for some prayers, some sharing, some reflection, and some memory. I'm going to begin this afternoon, almost afternoon, kind of still afternoon, with Mincha on page 289. Page 289. Atre Yoshevei Techod Yelucha Selah. Does everyone have a prayer book? Okay. Some of you. A lot of you. Not everyone. Okay. So can you help these books? Can you help give these out to people? Yeah. Okay. Tihilat Adonai Darber Piv Yivarech Ol Basar Shem Shalom Va'ed V'nachnu Nivarech Ya Me'atavi Adolam Hallelujah. Yigadav Shmei Rabbah Bi'amadi Raki Yotev Yamich Machuteh B'chayachonu Yimechonu Chayelechol Be'Yisrael B'agalav Yizman Kariv Imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mavorach Le'olam Omeil Maya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yipar V'yiromam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitalev V'yitalav Shmei Dekusha B'richu Le'elam Mikol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Tamiram B'yalma V'yimru Amen. We'll begin the Amidah all together on page 291. Page 291. And please rise if you are able. And again, together on page 291. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Nara, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot, U'Mevi Goel Livnei V'Nehem L'man Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer Ufoked U'Moshia U'Magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham Ufoked Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'elam Adonai, Mechayim Eitim Atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayim Eitim Barachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofech Olim U'Atir Asurim, U'Mekayim Emunoto L'Shnei Afar, Mi Chamocha Bal Gevurot, U'Midom Elach, Melech Memit U'Mechayeh U'Matzmiach Yeshua, V'Ne'eman Atah L'Hachayot Meitim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaMeitim, page 293. Nekadesh et Shemcha ba'olam, Kishem Shemati Shemoto b'Shmei Marom, Kakatuv al Yad Nevi'echa, V'Kara Zeh El Zeh V'Yamar. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzivaot, Melok ha'aretz kevodo, L'umatam Baruch Yomeru. Baruch kavod Adonai mimkomo, Uvdivrei kodshecha, Katuv le'mor. Yimloch Adonai le'elam el ha'eksim l'dor v'dor, Hallelujah, l'dor v'dor nagid godlecha, v'lenetzach netzachim kedushacha nakdish, v'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush le'olam va'ed, ki al melech gadol v'kadosh ata, Baruch ata Adonai, ha'el ha'kadosh. Kari Shalem, page 300. Yikadal v'yikadash Shemei Rabbah. V'yamad yivrak yirtei v'yamech machutei. V'chayechon v'yimechon v'chayel echol b'Yit Yisrael. V'agalav v'zman kariv yimru amin. Yehi Shemei Rabbah v'rach l'lam me'ol maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shemei l'kudusha b'richu. Le'ela mikol b'yachata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechmata dam yiram b'yalma. V'imru amin. Titzkabel tzloton u'voton d'chol Yisrael kadam avon divishmaya. V'imru amin. Yehi shalom Rabba min Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imru amin. Oseh shalom b'imru ma'ahu yaseh shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yakol Yoshvei Tevel v'imru amin. Aleinu, page 301. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol l'teh kedula liotzer b'reshit shelo asanu kegoye haratzot v'lo samanu k'mishpechot ha'adama shelo sam chalkenu kahem וגורלנו ככל המודם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Malkinu efesulato kakatu betorato viadatayo behashevota elivavecha ki Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim mima'al v'al ha'aretz mitachai ein od al kini chavelim. Kakatu b'toratecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Those of you who are in mourning or observing a yurt site to remain standing as we join me, please, in the words of Mourner's Kaddish on page 302. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabba bi'alma divrak yurte v'yamlich malchute b'chayachon v'yameyachon v'chayei techol beit Yisrael ba'agala v'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbam Varach Lelam Omei Omaya Yit Barach V'yishtabach V'yit Pa'ar V'yit Ramam V'yit Natseh V'yit Adar V'yit Aleh V'yit Alal Shemei Dikudasha B'richu Le'elam Minko Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Damiram V'yalma V'yimru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu V'yal Kol Yisrael V'yimru Amen. O say shalom b'imrumav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael, v'yal kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, amen. So it's customary to have a little bit of a break in between Mincha and Mariv to distinguish that it is actually two services that we are davening, the afternoon service and then the evening service. So in just a moment, the cantor will daven the Mariv service for us, and then we'll begin our Yom HaShoah commemoration. Just a brief note about Yom HaShoah. Yom HaShoah, does anyone know who established today as Yom HaShoah? Because there is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, which is not right. So who established the 27th of Nisan, which is the date that we are entering? Who established that as Yom HaShoah? Yes, it was David Ben-Gurion signed on to it as the Rosh HaMemshalah, as the Prime Minister of Israel, but the Israeli Knesset actually passed this. And what was interesting is that this wasn't, only the Jews, wasn't a universally agreed upon date for the commemoration of the Holocaust. There were those in the Orthodox circles who believed that we shouldn't put a date of mourning in the month of Nisan, because we don't say Tachanun during Nisan, the entire month, because the entire month is a celebration of our freedom, and therefore they were opposed to adding a day of mourning and a sad day in the month of Nisan. On the other side, there were those who said actually it should be closer to Pesach, because what critical event happened during the Holocaust on Erev Pesach. Does anyone remember? The Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, right? It began on Erev Pesach. So there were those who said to be true to the spirit of the gevurah, of the heroism of our people, that we should do it on Erev Pesach. That didn't gain traction. Then there were those who said that it should be on the 10th of Tevet, which is a fast day already and a traditional day of Jewish mourning. And there were still others who thought that it should be combined with the observance of Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av. Ultimately, again, leave it to the Jews for so many different opinions, but they settled upon, I don't know if they settled or it was imposed and we therefore were forced to settle. It's probably more of an accurate description with today, the 27th of Nisan. And has anyone ever been in Israel for the commemoration? Okay, and what stands out, of course, in Israel? Yeah, at 10 a.m. the traffic stops. And there's a siren, and so it's right. That's right, Ernie. Right. So it is quite something to behold. We'll talk a little bit more about the Holocaust in the eyes of Israel or sight in Israel in a little while. But that, I think, is enough sort of background information for us to continue, and now we're going to continue davening Mariv. Oh, I'm sorry, Elkie. It was established, I think, in 1959, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's in the 50s. I think it's 59, but give me or take a few years, okay? It's 7 days after Pesach, so it had sort of still the proximity, but it felt like, from what I remember reading, it felt like a compromise day. But it still had the proximity to Pesach and the proximity to the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, and also, though, to kind of to contrast what the Haredim say about it not being in the month of Nisan, there is also other mourning that goes on in the month of Nisan. The counting of Omer, exactly. So anyway, there's what to be said. And Moshe Feinstein wrote a big responsa on this for the Orthodox community. But actually, in the conservative movement, there wasn't unanimity on this. Like Ismar Shor, for instance, who was the past chancellor of the Jewish Theological Seminary, was the chancellor when I was a student. He thought it should have been on Tisha B'Av as well. So anyway, this is the date that was settled upon, or that Ben Gurion, who like only Ben Gurion can do, could impose a settlement, and that brings us to this evening. So we're going to daven Mariv, and then we'll provide a framework for the evening before Eva, who has graciously agreed to be our speaker to recall an important chapter in her life, but really, of course, in the chapter of all of our people.
If I could add one thing, I took a walk on Ben Yehuda Street this morning in Jerusalem. That is to say, our daughter who's there was video WhatsApping with me, and she went out and she brought me with her, and saw again what I know to be true, which is that all the businesses closed down. So like even Aroma Cafe that is open on Shabbos, but doesn't anymore. They don't anymore. But they were closed too, and Pizza Hut was closed, and all these other places were closed. And then some friend texted her and said, "Do you know where there's a good steak place that's open right now?" And she said to me, "Where has he been?" I mean, doesn't he know? And as we're walking down the street, there were, to my eye, very few people there. She said, although it's the pandemic and it's a Wednesday night, and so there aren't a lot of people normally, but all the tables would have been filled with people, and it's very quiet. And then we went back inside her apartment, and she turned on the TV to watch the tekes, the ceremony from Yad Vashem, where all of the high political people speak, and an Israeli singer named Esther Rada sang a beautiful song, which I know in Yiddish, and you were watching that today. She sang it in Hebrew. So It's a very, very moving day. And there is, Ernie, you're right, nothing like seeing traffic, especially for those of us from Los Angeles, to see traffic come to a complete halt and to see everybody get out of their car and stand at attention. So, all right, and as we move into the 27th of Nisan, into Yom HaShoah, I invite you to turn to page 264 for Mariv. 264, and if you can rise, please do so. Adonai Oshel Melech Yaneinu v'Yom Korenu Barechu et Adonai Hamvorach Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bidvarim Umavir Yom Umevi Laila Umavdil Ben Yom Uvein Laila Adonai Tzvaot Shemo El Chai V'Kayam Tamidim Lo Chaleinu Leolam Va'ed Baruch Atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Torah Mitzvot U'Kimah V'avatcha Al Tetzir Mimenu Leolamim Baruch Atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Ve'yahavta et Adonai Elohecha B'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha Hayom alevavecha veshinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha vaderech uvshochbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beinenecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha ובשעריך והיה עם שמוע תשמעו מצוות הרשנכם מצוותכם ויאמר להם השלם Jesus grew up to see them when he's what type Adonai Elohechem emet ve'emunah kol tov v'kayim aleinu ki Adonai Eloheinu ve'en zolot v'anach v'yisrael mokpedim. We're at the first red arrow on page 267. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לחנו שירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נהדר בקודש נורא תהילות עושה פלא מלכותך ראו בניך בוקע ים לפני משה זה אלי ענו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום ובדינו מלכנו לחיים פרוסו נזכה שמך ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים לשלום מעתה ועד עולם ברוך אתה אדוני שומר עמו ישראל לעד ברוך אדוני לעולם אמן ואמן ברוך אדוני מצווה ושכין שלום הללויה ברוך אדוני לעולם ישראל שיהיה בשביל הרבה באמת, אבל לא ציון.
כי המלכות שלך היא, ולעולמי תמלוך בכבוד, כי אין לנו מלך אלא אתה, ברוך אתה, אדוני, המלך בכבודו תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ועל כל מעשיו. יתגדל ויקרא שמי רבה, ועלמא דברי חירותי וימלך מלכותי, וחיי חונו וימי חונו וחי לכל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויפור ויתרומם וינשא, ויתהדר ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו, ליעלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן ביומה וימרו amen. The silent Amida is on page 270 in this Siddur that we're using here. If you're online and using the regular weekday Siddur, I think it's 141b or something like that. You'll find it. יתגדל ויקרא שמי רבה, ועלמא דברי חירותי וימלך מלכותי בחיי חונו וימי חונו וחי לכל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפור ויתרומם וינשא, ויתהדר ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו, ליעלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן ביומה ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צלותון ובאותון לכל ישראל, קודם אב ולד וישמע ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיא וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו amen. Please rise for Aleinu, page 281. Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבותה אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחתנו. לא כן נקבל לך אדוני. ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו echad. So today being the 27th of Nisan, I'm going to read the list of names of people whose yortzites we observe today. This is not the list of names that we recall on Yom HaShoah. We will do that in a few moments. But today on the 27th of Nisan, we recall the yortzites of Jules Bershak, William Chernoff, Marion Dreyer, Harry Herstick, Esther Rodin, Lou Shotland, and Norris Solomon. Anyone else who is not on our Shoah list who has a yortzeit to be observed today? If not, then those of you who are in mourning or observing a yortzeit either here or with us on the live stream, please join together with the Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, on page 282. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah Bialma Divra Chirute v'yamlich Malchute B'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach leolam uleomei Olmaya v'yit barach v'yishtabach v'yit po'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh v'yit hadar v'yit alev v'yit halal shemei dekudsha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei Shlomo Rabbah min Shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru Amen.
First of all, I want to wish Yesher Koach to Cantor Aronoff for leading us in Mariv. And I thought that I'd just begin this evening by talking a little bit about the new museum at Yad Vashem. It's actually not so new anymore, maybe a dozen years, give or take a few years. 15 years? There for the, 15 years, wow. The new museum. Oh, wow. Okay. So in Judaism, 15 years is really new. I mean, like, especially in Jerusalem, it's like, you know. I see. Okay, very good. So for those of you who have not had the opportunity to travel to Jerusalem to see the new museum at Yad Vashem, it's really quite extraordinary. And one of my visits, I purchased the collection that a collection of books that describes the architecture and some of the discussions. And this piece is by Moshe Safdie, who's the architect of the new museum. And in this work, Safdie explores an issue that he had when he was given the assignment of designing this new museum. So he had a topographical map of the area, which is a mountain. It's the mountain of memory, presented to him at his office. And the issue that he faced was, how do you build a museum on top of the mountain? In other words, there are all sorts of not only artistic issues, but logistical issues that would arise by building a new structure on top of this mountain. How would the people get up? How would they access? All of those issues were on Safdie's mind as he sat in his office and looked at this topographical structure. Until one day he recognized that his goal shouldn't be to build on top of the mountain, but rather to work with the mountain or through the mountain. And if you then visit the new museum, what you know is it's a prism-like structure which actually goes through the mountain and then emerges past the mountain itself. So, and I like thinking about that, about Safdie's dilemma on how to build upon the mountain as a metaphor for us. Because in some ways the question is, I was talking to my kids, they're doing all sorts of Yom HaShoah commemorations in their schools, and one of my children just came back from Israel where he visited Yad Vashem, and so we've been talking a lot about this. And their question is why, or how, or what? I mean, lots of questions. And I realize that often my answers are attempts to sort of build on top of the mountain, to conquer the question, to wrap everything up, to explain, the German people, the Treaty of Versailles, and oppression, lack of economic opportunity, it creates hatred. But nothing that I say or I've said in the past few weeks or will continue to say to them throughout their lives, or anything that any one of us can say, can build upon that mountain. No explanation can stand upon that mountain of destruction and that mountain of pain. There's no way to neatly package it. There's no way for us to sort of make it all better, to make it seem okay. Because what we experience and what Eva will reflect upon tonight defies any explanation. So then what is our purpose today? And then I went to this volume once again. In the back of this volume, there was an essay by Elie Wiesel that I had never read before, just read it this afternoon. And he's talking about this new museum at Yad Vashem and its importance. And he writes the following. At the end, speaking of those in the concentration camps, at the end, their wish was no longer to live, but to survive and tell the tale. But that was not possible. The enemy was too cruel, too determined, too powerful, and the outside world too indifferent. To forget them would mean having them die again. Thus, in this place, Yad Vashem, as in others, including the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C., extraordinary efforts are being made at least to record and remember their names, their stifled laments, their secret dreams, their tears, and even their agony. And that is our goal today. Our goal today and in the coming years is by remembering them, we prevent them from experiencing a second death, which is to be forgotten. And so that is how I hope we can look at this evening and how we can look at one of the missions and the pillars of our lives and identities as Jews. We're going to begin with a few songs, and then we'll call upon you all to read the list in number order as we remember members of our community and their families who perished in the Shoah.
I'm going to start with one song that I think like this. I can do it this way. Almost. Okay, I'm going to start first with one song. Probably many of you know, and so please feel free to sing along with it. Eli, Eli, shelo yigamer leolam, hachol ve'ayam, rishru shel hamayim, berach hashamayim, tfilat hadam, hachol ve'ayam, rishru shel hamayim, berach hashamayim, tfilat hadam. This song, of course, by Chana Senish, who made it to British Mandate Palestine and then went back to Europe to help those in Europe and was captured and executed in 1944 at the age of 23. Eli, Eli, shelo yigamer leolam, hachol ve'ayam, rishru shel hamayim, berach hashamayim, tfilat hadam, hachol ve'ayam, rishru shel hamayim, berach hashamayim, tfilat hadam. So I'd like to ask for us to begin with the readings of the names. And Jeff, I believe you're reading the first group. You can come right up here. First groups. You can raise this if you need to. You're taller than I am.
Okay. All right. It's emotional, huh? I'll start with Dola Abelez, Mendel Abelis and family, Ira Arts, Luba Arts, Mark Arts, Mina Arts, Bonkir family, Ella Behrman, James Behrman, Leo Behrman, Rosie Behrman. Alta Zev Belfer, Baruch Hirsch Belfer, Ben Zion Belfer, Chava Hinda Belfer, Esther Fremet Belfer, Albert Benevisti, Baruch Benevisti, Nisim Benevisti, Reuben ben Vinisti, Sarah ben Vinisti, Zipporah ben Vinisti, Ela Berkowitz, Dvorah Berkowitz, Isidore Berkowitz, Jakob Berkowitz, Yusul Berkowitz family, Sender Berkowitz, Wolf Berkowitz, Amin Berkowitz, Avraham Berkowitz and children, and then Fega Berkowitz family, Machla Berkowitz, Sender Berkowitz family, Solil Berkowitz family, Yidus Berkowitz family.
Yitzchak Biener, Meir Biener, Sarah Biener, Frima Blackman, Joseph Blackman, Golda Blackman, Ephraim Blackman, Kurt Block, Meta Block, Chaya Blumenstein, Gita Blumenstein, Israel Blumenstein, Hakatan Bomberg, Malvena Bomberg, Milo Bomberg, Baruch Bronner, Tova Bronner, Bila Herlovich, Chana Herlovich, Fischel Herlovich, Frida Herlovich, Shio Herlovich, Isaac Cordoval, Marie Cordoval, Amalia Diamond, Martin Diamond, Sammy Diamond, Shimon Diamond, Yehuda Diamond, Avraham Domke, Eliyahu Domke, Miriam Domke, Ruth Domke, Moshe Engel, Yaakov Kopel Engel.
Ita Feynman, Mordechai Lev Feynman, Benzion Fish, Barbara Frankel, Paul Frankel, Irene Fried, Eugenia Friedman, Dorothea Frost, Joel Friedman family, Chana Gelberg, Chaim Gelberg, Una Gelberg, Dvorah Gelberg, Israel Gelberg, Malka Gelberg, Pinchas Gelberg, Sheo Gelberg, Zirel Gelberg, Wolf Gelberg.
For those people who have been around Adad for a long time, you may or may not remember, I believe it was Freddie Gelberg, right? He loved the Israeli dancing. This, I believe, is his family. I went to Israel with his daughter. And, of course, the Belfer family, represented here by Terry Ellis. The Binner family, Irvin is home recovering from his surgery, but the Binner family is represented as well. As well as many others in that first group of people. I'd like to sing now a song that I learned from the wonderful, well, not in person, but from a recording of the wonderful Israeli singer Chava Alberstein, who is an Israeli singer who sings a lot in Hebrew, but has also sung a lot in her mother tongue of Yiddish. And this is called Rivka La Dishabestika. So I sing this song every Yom HaShoah. It was written, the words were written by a man named Pesach Kaplan, who perished during the war in the Bialystok ghetto in 1943. The song was inspired by the tragic occurrence in the Bialystok ghetto on Shabbat of July 12, 1942, when 5,000 Jews were shot by the Germans. Women whose husbands were killed on that Shabbat day were called die Shabbestika, the Sabbath ones. And the two verses I'm going to sing translate like this. Rivkala, the Sabbath one, in a factory toils, twists a strand into a strand, weaves a braided coil. Oh, the gloomy ghetto stands there much too long, and her heart with so much pain, rueful, so forlorn. Where is he, my darling one? Does he still live? Where? In the concentration camp? Is he slaving there? Oh, how dreadful is his lot, how horrible is mine, since that fateful Saturday, since that day, that time.
Rivka die Schabesdicke Arbeit in Fabrik. Treter vor dem zu, vor dem Fleck zu neu verstrick. Oi die Ghetto finstere, dauert schon zu lang. Und das Herz so verklemmt, tut dir so bang. Wo ist mein lieben Kerl, lebt noch, Gott wo? Zieh in Konzentratielager, Arbeit schwer ohne Ruhe. Oi, wie finster ist ihm dort, bitter ist mir da. Sind von jenem Schabesson, sind von jener Show.
Continuing with those who we recall today. Members of the Gluck family, for those who remember Peter Gluck. Berta Gluck, David Gluck, Hermann Gluck, Regina Gluck. My great-grandmother Shifra Goldstein. Margit Gottesman, Samuel Gottesman, Berta Gottschalk, Chaim Itzhak Greengutz, Elsa Grunwald, Henry Grunwald, Martin Grunwald, Bullet Greenbaum, Charles Grunberg, Egon Grunberg, and Rosika Grunberg. Which group are you reading, Eva? 12? Do we have anybody reading 10 and 11, or is that me as well? I will go on. Beryl Dov Grunstein, Chaya Sarah Grunstein, Chaim and Tibor Grunstein, Devora Vera Grunstein, Lieb Grunstein, Meir and Miklos Grunstein, Mordechai Grunstein, Pinchas Grunstein, Sigmund Grunstein, Yehudit Grunstein. Brana Heisler, Isidor Heisler, Joseph Heisler, Moishe Aaron Heisler, Emil Hermann, Justin Hermann, Ludwig Hermann, Nani Hermann, Blima Hershkovitz, and Isaac Hershkovitz and 2 sons.
Miriama Christel Hirschon, Abraham Hochman, Jochavet Faya Hochman, Benjamin Juskovic, Jakubowicz, Miriam Jakubowicz, Rivka Jakubowicz, Shalom Jakubowicz, Ernest Juskovic, my father, who perished in Auschwitz. Lajos Juskovic, same. Helena Juskovichova, my aunt. Wirtschafterova Berta, my aunt. Thank you.
Avram Katz, 25 descendants of Baruch and Jenny Katz, Hannah Katz, Gertrude Katz, Hinza Katz, Isaac Katz, Liber Katz, Lila Katz, Nochaman Katz and family, Rivka Katz, Sally Katz, Sura Katz, Yankov Katz, and Gertrude and Sully were my in-laws.
Clara Kaufman, Etta Kaufman, Gita Kaufman, Menachem Mendel Kaufman, Zahava Kaufman, Zev Aryeh Kaufman, Zvi Meyer Kaufman, Elias Kling, Ernst Kling, Mina Kling, Ruth King, Mina Korach, Lizer Cristal, Etta Jacobson Cristal, David Cristal, Kramer family, Arno Lehman, the Levitz family, Nanny Lewin, Ursula Lewin, Beryl Liebling, Esther Tilly Liebling, Isaac Liebling, Jechen Liebling, Grete van Minde, Mandraikanen family, Hans Oppenheim, Grete Pachter, Kurt Pachter, Mina Polman, Abraham Reifer, Moichi Reifer, Zelda Reifer, Henrietta Rappaport, Samuel Rappaport, Anzia Ryan, Edik Ryan, Yurik Ryan, Moshe Ryan. One more? Brother?
Margit Reisman, Sylvia Reisman, Pinchas Reutblum, Yankov Reutblum, Yisroel Reutblum, Chana Rosenbaum, Moshe Aden Rosenbaum, and 5 sons, Minna Rosenberg, Myrtle Rosenblatt, Cyril Rosenblatt, Zanvil Rosenblatt, and my great-grandfather, Alter Rottenberg. Chaim Shlomo Rottenberg happens to be my brother who did not die in the Holocaust, so I'm not sure how that got on there. But he is dead. Dreza Rottenberg, Moshe Ruda, Andre Sapintan, Avraham Sapintan, Frida Sapintan, Herman Sapinatan, Yehudit Sapintan, Bertold Scheiman, Esther Gringutz Schlossberg, Judith Kristal Schwarzman, Eva Schwartz, Naska Schwartz, Roman Schwartz, Selma Schwartz. Somebody else?
Hang on one second. I'm going to sing one more song, and then we will have 2 more people finishing up reading the list of names. This song, I do this one every year, too, at Yom HaShoah. It's in English and very, very powerful, by Stacy Beyer. My eyes have never seen the days and nights that you have seen. My ears have never heard the cries ringing out from where you've been. My body has never known the pain that came upon you in unthinkable ways. But somewhere inside of me there is a place that's reaching out to you. Tell me the stories and I'll pass them down to my own, and my children will tell their children, and so on and so on, and then it will never happen again. There is no way for time to heal the wounds that did you harm. Torn from your family, pulled from your home, a brand upon your arm, a number to be your identity, but no one could steal your dignity. And somewhere there is a place in me that's reaching out to you.
Tell me the stories, and I'll pass them down to my own. And my children will tell their children, and so on and so on, and then it will never happen again. And though today you're here and free, you carry the burden of memories, and I must learn your history. So no one ignores, no one denies, no one forgets the truth. Tell me the stories, and I'll pass them down to my own. And my children will tell their children, and so on and so on, and then it will never happen again. And so on and so on, and then it will never happen again.
Raisel Silbermanas, Shmuel Hirsch Silbermanas, Israel Moshe Silbermanas. Erika Simon, Max Simon, Rita Simon, Agnes Sommer, Bendik Sommer, Doris Sommer, Jacob Sommer, Jenny Sommer, Mina Sommer. Spatzgang family, Eva Stang, Frieda Stang, Irma and Siegfried Stern, Irmgard Stern, Kurt Stern, Werner Stern, Roman Schmuller, Itzhak Teitelbaum, Moishe Teitelbaum, Pesa Roisa Teitelbaum, Toba Schendel Teitelbaum. And although I don't have anyone listed here, my maternal grandparents were Haskell Brugger, Marta Brugger, and my uncle Herbert Brugger and his family, who lived in Holland and were deported to Auschwitz.
Talman family, Alta Tomber, Yankov Tomber, Weintraub family, Joseph Wilder, Paulina Wilder, Ruchla Ziuta Wilder, Wilder family, David Winnick, Joseph Wurstafter, Abram Woznicka, David Woznicka, Esther Woznicka, Helen Woznicka, Mordechai Woznicka, Samuel Nathan Woznicka, Hind Sison Yankov, and the Zira family.
So this evening, we invited Eva Trenk to share her story. And Eva, you and I had an opportunity to sit in your home a few months ago, 5-6 months ago, and I heard just a little bit about your story. And as I was listening to you that afternoon, I thought, boy, I'd like to hear your story. And so many others have echoed that when you've told your story in so many different forums, and each time it serves as a meaningful recollection of what befell our people. And so, without further ado, I'm going to call upon you. And maybe what we'll do is, we don't have to be so formal. Would you prefer to sit and talk? No. Okay. And following Eva's talk, if anyone has any questions. And then after the presentation, we'll conclude the evening by counting the Omer, and then also reciting the memorial prayers. And then when we complete the memorial prayers, what we're going to do is we're going to light a candle, and we'll make a line over here, and we'll give out everyone a yurtzeit candle, and you will have the opportunity to light your candle, and then we'll continue singing towards our Holocaust memorial over there in the courtyard, where there's a place where you could place your candle for the evening.
Thank you, Rabbi, very much for inviting me. It is my pleasure. And good evening, everyone. And good evening also, my friends who are watching us on the internet. Some of you know me, and some of you don't. My name is Eva Trenk, and I was born in Czechoslovakia. And in Czechoslovakia, they call me Eva. Or, like my mother used to ask me always, Evička, which is when you are a baby, child, small child, they call you differently than when you are adults. Czechoslovakia, I am sure many of you have been traveling a lot, and probably some of you already visited Czechoslovakia. It's a beautiful country, and if you still have chance to go and visit, I really recommend it. Life was very good. My family was established, and I should have mentioned that 29 years ago, Czechoslovakia separated. There are Czech Republic and Slovak Republic now. I was born in Slovak Republic, which is smaller than Czech Republic. But life was very good. We had lots of family, uncles, and cousins. We celebrated birthday, holidays, get together, and we had also lots of non-Jewish friends who were our neighbors. So we get along very well. My grandparents, they had a business. My parents, they own a kind of like machinery, so they were renting machinery. I attended kindergarten, and my brother, who is 2 years older, he went to school. I'm going to, I don't know, I have like 30 minutes or something I was told to speak, so I'm going to make as short as possible. And then we are open to the question, if you have any question. As I said, I went to the kindergarten and had lots of friends. And one day I came home crying. So my mother asked me, what happened? What happened? Why are you crying? So I said, my friends, they don't want to play with me anymore. Whatever reason is, when you are 4 years old, 4.5 years old, you don't give the answer. I always specify, whenever I speak different schools or temples, I said, I am a child of the Holocaust survivor, okay? Because there are many adults who already was adults. I am a child of Holocaust survivor. So, as I said, I came home crying. My mother said, play with your brother or with your cousin. Every time was different rules and regulations. Started in 1942, started to apply. As I said, my family had a business. My father, of course, he was the one who was in charge. My mother didn't work, but she had a beautiful voice, so many times she was asked to sing at the wedding or bar mitzvah. This was volunteer work, right? No charge, of course. Many times I always said, I wish I have such a beautiful voice, so I can compete. Anyway, so as I said, life was very good. And in 1942, life started to change. There is always new rules and regulations, especially for the Jewish people. Okay? As you probably saw in the museum or in the movie, you have to wear the yellow star. After 8 o'clock, nobody could go out, so there was no movies or no theater. Everything was limited for the Jewish people. life became very depressing and not easy. One day, 2 Slovak fascists came to our house, and they announced the law came. Then everybody, Jewish people, of course, has to give up their businesses. What is the reason why? That's the law. Yeah? So my father had no choice, and they offered him, if he wanted to work for them, he can go and work for them. So he had no choice, of course, so he went and he worked for them. Every time there's new rules, new regulation, every time. So a couple of months after this, the law came. You have couple of weeks, prepare yourself, take a suitcase, important papers, whenever it's closed, and we have to meet in certain place. They show us, they tell us where to meet. Everybody is asking, why? What is the reason? Well, we're taking you to work. What kind of work? We are born here. We grew up here. We have businesses here. Where are you taking us? But that's the law, and we had to obey the law. So we came to this place. There was already some people already waiting over there, children, adults, everybody, you know, all these Jewish people. There was the buses, so they put us in those buses, and they drove us to the station. From there was already the wagons, and we had, you know, they pack us in this wagon, and where are we going? To work, again, to work. Nobody had answer, okay? They didn't want to talk to nobody, because maybe they didn't know exactly where or what, but there was such an uncertainty. Anyway, after 2 days traveling, we arrived to the city called Žilina, which is in Slovak. They opened the doors, and slowly everybody get up, and there was lots of soldiers with the guns waiting for us. And the moment where we arrived, they separate us. The children separate, the men separate, and the women. I was not even 5 years old. Could never forget. I was always so used to stay with my mother. So I was holding her skirt. I didn't want to go away. But then the fascists, I always called fascists, they came and they pushed me away, and my mother away. I was crying, I was crying, I was so miserable. And then some children who were there already, so they came to me and they said, don't cry, we will stay with you, we will do things together. So I had no choice. You had no choice. When the situation arrives like this, so you do what you have to do, because you were afraid and you will get shot or something on the spot. That's what happened. So then put us in the room. In the one small room, we were like 12 children. Some of them, they even didn't have place where to sleep, so on the floor. And then we took turns, of course, we took turns. And Czechoslovakia, as you probably know, there is 4 seasons. So it was cold, and many times during the night, whistling what's going on. First time when it's happened, you are scared, you don't know what to do. So march out. So sometimes, we even didn't have time to put the shoes. Many children, we went for a walk for 2 hours, sometimes even longer. Some of them who came back with the frozen feet, because they even didn't have time to put the slippers or the shoes or something. And this went on many times. The food was terrible. It's even not wanted to mention, it was terrible. When we got a potato or some little vegetable, it was the holiday. So everybody was so happy. This went on for many months. My mother hardly came to visit because it was not allowed, okay? Not allowed. One day she surprised me and she said, put something warm on you. So what happened? What happened, my grandmother, who was tiny little woman and very business professional woman, and nobody asked questions, she brought with her a gold, okay? And it was not to, they were checking because you have to give almost everything away when you got there. She brought gold, and meanwhile, while we staying over there, she developed kind of a friendship with one of the soldiers. She bribed him. She said, I will give you a gold if you help my family to get away from this, get away from this camp. She took such a chance because the soldiers could, shoot her and could shoot all of us, or he could report us. So, but she kind of trusted him. Later on, we find out that he was a Jewish guy. He was a Jewish soldier, and he had lots of connection. So that's what happened. We were able to escape. My brother, my grandmother, myself, and my mother. And the soldier, he arranged for us everything. We end up in the small village, and they had a farm where we stay. He arranged for us the staying where we stay. This couple, young Christian couple, they had farm, so they were farmers. So when we arrived over there, we kind of got later Christian papers. My name is Margaret. And all of us got Christian names. And my mother and my grandma, they were working on the farm, which they never worked kind of physically in their life. But this was the situation. They started to work over there. And my brother and I, we helped as much as we could. One day, knocking on the door, two fascists were looking for my mother. My mother said, I am a Christian woman because we already had the papers. They said, and she's a partisan. Then she's a partisan. My mother said, I'm not a partisan, I am a worker here. They took my mother and they held her for 2 long weeks. For 2 weeks. Finally, after 2 weeks, she came back. And even later in life, we never asked my mother what happened during the 2 weeks, what they held her. There was no question what they did something, whatever, no question. But then she realized it's dangerous to stay in this place, so we have to move. So she asked the owner if he can take us to the mountain. It's not too far, it was maybe like 12 kilometers. There was not a farm, mountains. So he agreed, and he took us to the mountains. When we arrived to the, to the mountains, there was already Jewish people, lots of Jewish people, children, and soldiers. They were partisans. They were partisans because during the war, the partisans were hiding in the mountains. Most of them, they were hiding in the mountains, so there were lots of partisans over there. And they told us, don't get very comfortable because we never know what German can surprise us. They gave us food because the people donate them food. It was kind of like we slept on the grass, of course, but we had what to eat. Thanks. Thank you. Anyway, after a while, Germans surprised us. German arrives, and they surprised even some soldiers, so they took us, and they took soldiers. Where they took us? They took us to another place, another city. And in Czechoslovakia, I'm going back a little bit, I'd like to explain to you, every male 18 years old has to go to the army. Or you go to the army, or you study. There is no such a thing that the students are just, or not working or not study. Or you study and you go to work. Or you're working or you go to the army. Every man has to go to the army. So this place, there were like 10 big buildings for the army. And when the situation started developing, the Jewish problem, they call problem, right? So they moved the soldiers away, and Jewish people started to come to this, we occupied this place. So at least we had one room for ourselves, and we had food. They were business company. This is kind of like business company. They build the furniture, they make the furniture and different stuff, sewing, things like this. So my mother again and my grandma, they were working for them. And my brother and I and the rest of us, we already had a teacher, and we had some classes. Or we were helping in the kitchen sometimes. And everybody was waiting for the end of the war. There was lots of commotion, because sometimes people tried to escape, so they were shooting. Then many people and children got sick, and if you got sick, you are not there. Over there, they took you. And this is not far, the Slovak part is border with the Polish, and everybody knows about unfortunate Auschwitz. So from there, when people got sick, so they took them to the Auschwitz, unfortunately, or they shot them. So terrible, terrible situation, as I said. And then one day, there were lots of airplanes. So I said to my brother, look, Arthur, his name is Arthur, I should have mentioned, there is the silver birds. I call them silver birds. Then later, of course, when you get older, something you realize it's American soldiers, American airplanes. And we were under the table, running away, afraid. But finally, in May 1945, the war is over, thank God. But nobody can travel because everything, there was no possible transportation. Everything was demolished because there was huge fighting between Russia, between German and Slovak. So we had to wait a couple of more months until finally started to build some transportation, and we were able to go to Bratislava, which now is the capital of Slovak Republic, Bratislava. And my mother found out the place where to sign up and to look for her husband and my father and the rest of the family, what happened. Because during this time, we never hear about the family, what happened to the family. So she went to the office where she found out this place, and everybody wrote their name, who they're looking for. So when she wrote my father's name, Ernest Juskovic, some man who was there not far, he came to her, and he said, I saw your husband. Is this your husband? Well, she said, yes. I saw him just before end of the war. So my mother was so happy to hear this. Where did you see him? In Auschwitz. So this was very devastating. And my mother, she said, okay, so we have to go back home. When we arrived home, there was no home. There was no home. Everything was burned down to the ground. The houses burned down to the ground. So what do? we have to go places somewhere, right? So the next city, Sečovce, called Sečovce, and we find the apartment, and my dear mother, she had to go to work, because it's not like here when you are poor, the government helping you. No government, nothing. So she was forced to go to work. I went to school, and my brother also, Arthur. And when he was 13 years old, he came with the news he's going to Israel. My mother said, "You are a child when you go to Israel." So somehow he find this group, student children, and he want to go to Israel. So in 1969, Israel was not like today. Some people, they know Israel long, okay? In 1949, he went to Israel with this group. So they end up in the kibbutz, and part-time kibbutz, part-time to school. And then he went to the army, and he got wounded, and he met somebody, developer, and he learned to be developer. So my brother became very successful developer in Israel. And I always say, and I'm so proud, I said, my brother built Ashkelon. If anybody knows Ashkelon, it's a beautiful place, beautiful city. So he built Ashkelon. He married, has 2 children and grandchildren. Anyway, I finished the school. Also, I have to mention in Czechoslovakia, when you are in 9th grade, you have to decide what you want to study. My very, very best friends, which were all were Christian Catholic, no Jewish friend. You might ask why not? Because there was no Jewish children my age to be my friend. They were or too young or too old. So I had those Christian friends, beautiful. We were so close, like sisters with some of them. One of them, she wanted to go to medical school, and she asked me in 9th grade to go also to medical school, but I couldn't go. I fainted when I see the blood. So I studied economy. I was very good in mathematics in school and chemistry. Lots of exercise. I love exercise in school. Very good. I represent school in running 80 meters. I travel. They pay me for this. It was wonderful. I play volleyball and also dancing. Love to dancing, and we travel to Prague and different cities with the dancing group. We had a wonderful teacher, and we went to Prague. Anyway, so I love mathematics, so I went to economy school, and I graduated. I got married, Tibor, my husband Tibor, and we had son Peter, and life was very good. We had lots of money, we had furniture, cars, everything. Life was really good. President Dubček, he was president, and he tried to help people, and Russia didn't like it. So in 1968, surprise, Russia invaded Czechoslovakia. So we met them because it came also the tanks. They came with the tanks, and so we went to talk to them. They said, young children, of course, they didn't want to be there. We don't want to be here. So we brought them food and the drinks, and lots of people were leaving because nobody wanted to live under the communists. So we decided also to close the door, take 2 suitcases. We had passport as tourists, so we could go to Vienna, Austria. There we registered with the HIAS. Lots of people knows HIAS. And we were waiting, and they sent us to Rome 6 months and for the visa. And in September 1969, we arrived to Los Angeles. Yeah. I wanted to go to Switzerland. My husband, no, we're going out from Europe. So we came to Los Angeles. I have to tell you something. We stay in the motel on Fairfax and looking for apartment. Nobody want to rent us with a child. No child. Cats and dogs, yes, but no children. That was my experience in the United States. Can you imagine? Anyway, finally then we find apartment on North 21 North Sierra Bonita in Los Angeles. Mrs. Vrobel was the owner with the husband. He was baker at Schwartz Bakery. And she was so good to me because I didn't speak any English. And I always says, we came with no English and no money. So she was helping me with to take to the doctor with the Peter or to the shopping. I am grateful very much to Mrs. Vrobel. My husband got a job almost immediately. Not in his profession, because at home he didn't work. He just took the money. He was electrical engineer, so he didn't have to work too hard. But here he worked manually, 10 hours a day. So if somebody says to me they cannot find a job in the United States, I don't believe it, because who wants to work, they got a job, okay? So he worked hard. Our social life was zero, because when he comes home tired, I cook for him, prepare everything, and he went to sleep because he worked hard. So then later I find a job also, bookkeeping, accounting. There you don't have to speak English, but mathematics came very handy. Later I got my real estate license. Peter went to Hebrew Yavna Academy in Los Angeles. He graduated, then he went to college, and later he unfortunately became sick, and some years ago, my dear son passed away. I always say, this is my Holocaust. Then my husband, we got divorced, and we remained friends, but he also passed away. So I live alone. Lots of people know me, Rabbi too. And I'm trying to survive. I'm trying to do my very best. Then I decided to retire, and Holocaust Museum in Los Angeles, they kind of got my telephone number. I got a call from them if I would be interested in speaking. So I decided, okay, if I can, okay. So since then I speak at the Holocaust Museum Los Angeles, and then I speak different schools, different temples, and UCLA, and Milken. As a matter, I am invited tomorrow, Milken and USC. So different schools and different temples. And at the museum, lots of non-Jewish children coming, okay, to the museum. And also I speak different schools, not Christian, not Jewish. It's very important. It's very important for us to share and to hear from real, Holocaust survivor. Because even today, you can hear on television, Holocaust never happened. Unfortunately, Holocaust happened. Even now, I am much older. I still miss my father. When I see young children, on my blog or anywhere, the fathers with the child, daddy, it's breaking my heart. I feel so bad that I, miss all of this. But, like they say, life has to go on, okay? So I am trying my very best. I took some classes in the always love art, so I took one semester painting. So that's my hobby, painting. And I belong to Jewish war veterans. Anybody who wants to belong to, we have meeting every first Sunday. And I am so grateful to American soldiers for savings, for, many of them, they die. They died during the war. So I am so grateful. I became a member, active member. So it's wonderful. And they appreciate this. I have good feeling and they have good feeling about this, yeah. And trying to be busy. And on this note, I think so, I wanted to thank you for listening my unfortunate story, my unfortunate life story. I wish I would have more, happiness, things like this. But this always will stay with me. And I thank you for coming and for listening. And thank you, Rabbi and Hazan. Appreciate this very much. And if you have any question, please, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So we want to thank Eva for you coming and, oh, of course.
So you refer to yourself as, you didn't refer to yourself as a survivor, correct?
Child of the Holocaust survivor.
Yeah, so why not a Holocaust survivor?
Because I was a child.
The question for those online was that Eva referred to herself as a child survivor of the Holocaust, and why not just the question was as a survivor? And so her answer was because she was a child during the Holocaust. Okay.
So I like my mask, so I'll be wearing it. But my mom was also a child of the Holocaust. So I just want to support what you're saying and share with you that my mom had a stroke, and I found out from a psychologist who was helping her and me, because she really changed. It was, I don't want to take up time, people want to talk to you. But if you want to talk to me, or I just want to tell you that there's a phenomenon that happened when to the stroke victims that was unique to children of the Holocaust. There's something that has been studied now. So it's really a unique experience to have been a child of trauma than an adult. And so it's so beneficial to all of us that you mentioned. I've never heard somebody say it like that except the psychologist. So, yeah, thanks. Sure.
Thank you, Dorit. Anyone else? Adam. The question was there any assistance from a local town? Yeah, sure, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I am. Even in the Holocaust survival, they are so different because until a couple of years ago, people who were in the hiding, they were not recognized as a Holocaust survivor. Okay. Only people in the camp, they were really Holocaust survivor. Even though we were in the two different camps, I don't want to compare myself with the people who survived Auschwitz. There are some who survived the Auschwitz. With the numbers, you know, they got the numbers. This is the top of the terrible, terrible experience. So I even cannot compare because we had at least some, okay, food, not too much, and we had soldiers watching us. But who survived Auschwitz, Birkenheim, they deserve the most credit for everything, for surviving. Thank you. Yes.
Sure, no problem. Thank you. I used to master years ago. But anyhow, Eva, I beg to differ with you. I think that the very fact that you have gone through all these experiences is enough. You are a Holocaust survivor. But the degree of the pain or the misery you suffer is not important. You suffer that. Therefore, to me, you deserve all the credit in the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And most of the things what I really miss, I lost my father, and I lost 80% of my family. 80%. Uncles and cousins, young children. What did they do, to deserve to be killed and burned? It's just devastating. As I always specify the youngster when I'm talking to the student, never should this happen again. Never. And I always specify them, ask them, share the experience what you hear today from me with your friends, with your family, so everybody should know the Holocaust really happened. Thank you.
For those of you online, there was a discussion of sort of nomenclature of who is a survivor, and Eva's reticence to say that she distinguished herself as a child of surviving of the Holocaust, and some reluctance to say that she was a survivor, just survivor, period. And Zissel and a few others commented that that after that what she's experienced, she shouldn't try and quantify her pain, and so our hearts and that in his mind and in the mind of many here that she's a survivor indeed, and we so appreciate you taking the time to share with the children. As a parent of one of the children who will be present at Milken tomorrow, we appreciate you. Okay. If he's not there, you let me know. Oh, it's on the Zoom? Okay. So we appreciate you sharing your recollections, not only with us, but with the entire world. At this point, we're going to ask everyone to please rise. The counting of the Omer is the time in between Pesach and Shavuot. It's a link between our celebration of freedom and our acceptance of responsibility with the Ten Commandments. And I can think of how fitting of a ritual that is for tonight when we think about how fortunate we are to live here in America, to live here as free people. And so many of us have been directly touched with so many members of our families who perished in the Shoah, and to hear Ava's story. So there's an acceptance while we enjoy our freedom. There's certainly an acceptance of responsibility of continuing to tell the stories of our people and to tell the stories of the tragedy of the Shoah. So we'll count the Omer now. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer. Hayom shnayim asar yom shehem shvua echad v'chamisha yamim la'omer. Today is 12 days, 1 week, and 5 days of the Omer. May we all successfully celebrate our freedom by accepting responsibility. And this evening in particular, may we accept the responsibility of continuing, as Elie Wiesel articulated in that article, as Ava articulated tonight, the responsibility of assuring that our ancestors, our relatives, that they are remembered, that they are remembered forever. And let us all say, Amen. At this point, the cantor is going to lead us in a Kel Malay, a memorial prayer. I'll then recite it in English, and then we'll conclude with the mourner's Kaddish. After the mourner's Kaddish, I'd like to ask everyone to kind of make a line over here. And Ava, what we'd like to do is to ask you to serve as you've been an emissary of light this evening, to hold the candle and to light everyone's yurtzeit candle, and then we'll process together. So we'll make a line, and Ava will light your candles as we walk out, and then we'll have the opportunity to place the candles at the foot of our memorial.
El male rachamim shochen bameromim hametzeh menucha nechona tachat kanfei השכינה במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים לנשמות כל אחינו בני ישראל שנטבחו בשואה אנשים, נשים וטף, שנחנקו ושנשרפו ושנהרגו, שמסרו את נפשם על קידוש השם, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתם. אנא בעל הרחמים, הסתירם בסתר כנפיך לעולמים. וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם, אדוני ונחלתם. וינוחו ושלום על משכבותיהם, ונאמר Amen.
El Malay Rachamim, exalted, compassionate God, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure, whose radiance is like the heavens, to the souls of all the men, women, and children of the house of Israel, who were slaughtered, strangled, burned, and murdered in the Shoah. May they rest in paradise. Master of mercy, may they find eternal shelter beneath your sheltering wings, and may their souls be bound up in the bond of life. Adonai is their portion. May they rest in peace, And let us all say, Amen. For those of you who are moved to remain standing and join me with Mourner's Kaddish, it can be found on page 58. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabba, bi'alma divra kirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agalau v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabam mevorach le'olam omei omaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudisha b'richu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran b'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'al kol yoshvei tevel. V'imru amen. And may the memory of the 6 million be a source of blessing for the Jewish people and a reminder to all of humanity. And let us all say, Amen. I'd like to ask you to quietly line up. We'll ask Ava to come forward.
most of them were repeated and summarized. You get to carry this. Oh, wait, here.
How's your back?